Well, I think it would be fair to say that, and thanks for having us. It would be fair to say that since 1994, some ground have been covered, particularly on racial harmony in the country. But quick to say that so much still needs to be done, because remember, this is not just a concept. It is based on real situation, on real lives lived by South Africans. So therefore, we can't talk reconciliation in abstract. Reconciliation has to do with the livelihood of people in the country, the economic justice in our land. When we have not dealt with those things, when we have not dealt with issues of inequality, of poverty, it would be a concept based on classes which anyway have been advantaged in the past, including races, as it were. So the frustration would then be understood, because people would ask about what then has happened to their lives. And as we reflect on this, we say it's not about being cozy with each other and pretending that things are what they are not. It's about reflecting truly and saying, where are we? How have the lives of people changed? We talk of the land and land dispossession. You cannot, talk reconciliation outside of those parameters of radical socio-economic transformation. Therefore, our barometer on the issue of reconciliation will be interwoven with the economic status and position of the majority of the people of South Africa.
Yeah, and since we're having this sobering reflection, Minister, many people will come out to say 26 years is a fair amount of time, if you like, for a government in power to at least have some of these, call it basic things sorted out. You're part of the government in power. Do you think that's a fair assessment, that you've had more than enough time for at least to be given an opportunity to address this widespread sense of disillusionment?
Well, I under the process of transformation and changing the situation from racial subjugation has never been and will never be a matter of years or few years. It's a lifelong area, but people would be fair to say that some of the areas we supposed to have moved much faster. That would be a fair assessment, because if, for instance, we take the issue, you see what is happening in the farms, for instance, the kind of conflict which is there because between the farm workers and the farmers and so on. Again, you look at that from the point of view of land, that at the center of that conflict would be issues of land. So we, I would say, perhaps would not have moved as fast as South Africans would have expected to ensure that the issues of land are settled. But you know that there's been instances where the dignity of people, because when you say reconciliation, the TRC then said, to heal the wounds of the past, you need to have a symbolic reparation to the victims of apartheid and racism. And by the way, we still have racism. We still have racism today in the country without racists.
Yeah.
Because those who would be racist would be telling you how wonderful Madiba was and how much we should follow Madiba's footsteps, when in fact they know that it's just a smoke screen of not wanting to change. So we've got to be clear that our program is to create an unracial society. It's not our program to be chasing around racism or racist, But when they happen to block the way towards non-racial society, we'll have to highlight that and show intolerances, particularly in that kind of situation.
You know, you speak about smoke screens, Minister. We've become accustomed on a day like this to the interfaith walks that usually take place in various parts of the country, mostly in regions like District 6 in Cape Town. And, you know, that region in and of itself is quite a symbolic one, given the history it's been through, forced removals during apartheid, etc., etc. And it brings to mind the type of, call it, violence that communities, especially in places like Cape Town, continue to face today in the form of, you know, the economic injustices through things like gentrification. I wonder how much time is being given to focus on that aspect of the reconciliation project, right? There's sheer violence that people have experienced in the past, but there's economic violence that many communities are still plagued with today.
In addition, when you talk about that part of the country, you also have cultural violence, where people want to, you know, disentangle a culture of a community which have been built over a period of time. No, we are very much focused on those, very much focused because we stand with those who are victims, those who have been victimized over a period of time. When we talk about District 6, for instance, you know that during this very difficult period of the pandemic, they have raised an issue about being assisted. And we said we would not hesitate to come to the party and assist them because we understand that we are healing the wounds of the past. People of District 6 felt in a very real way this pernicious ideology, because racism is not just prejudice. It's much deeper than that. It's pernicious ideology which have to be fought right from the roots. If you look at the community of Bogap, for instance, we had to come in there as part of protecting a people there and a culture of a people and their heritage as part of our project of transforming the heritage landscape in our country. So when we talk reconciliation, we talk of a two-way stream, that those who have been perpetrators should understand that the victims have always been ready to reconcile, and they must show and play their part as well.
Minister, I imagine some people listening to our conversation feeling that it's nothing but lip service. What do we have to show for the resolve you have in meaningfully addressing these issues such that they actually manifest in material change?
You know, Ayanda, that we are advanced now insofar as the issue of land as government. You would know that we are at an advanced stage on regulating hate speech and acts like racism and so on. You would also know that we're aggressively responding to the TRC on the issue of the heritage landscape in our country. As things stand now, I've briefed 4 of the 9 provincial legislatures, having started with the National Assembly and NCOP, to say that something has to give. If Steve Biko died because of what he was fighting for a non-racial society, we need to be saying that people currently and for posterity should know who Steve Biko is. And we should be able to honor him, for him to be in the face of the public, which we are doing and will continue to do. But we are also saying that for us really to get to address the issue of race, of all intolerances, because we talk here this year about gender-based violence and femicide and racism, but there are many intolerances. There are anti-foreigner sentiments, for instance, which we have to deal with. There are some tribalist tendencies. There are a host of things. As you know, with the international conference we hosted in 2000, which was dealing with all these intolerances. It is our lifelong program and project, and we also look in other countries. If you remember, for instance, the last century, W.E.B. Du Bois dubbed it the century of resolving the color line, but we're still dealing with color line in its diversity. Some in instances where you're dealing with both black and white, we're dealing with same kind of races and so on. So we are going to continue, Ayanda, including making the lives of people better. All those things are part and parcel of the process of reconciliation. It's not just reconciliation in its own.
Right. Minister, to be fair, some of the challenges we face in the country are certainly not unique to South Africa, but I want to hone in on the optics that we're dealing with here at home. For many people, if you're going to lead the reconciliation process, you need to have some kind of, call it moral currency to do so. There needs to be reason why people should trust that you are able to see this through. The standing government, many might argue, simply doesn't have that at the moment. And developments from yesterday are just a case in point, where there are resolutions made about how the government wants to respond to things like corruption, and then when things need to be enforced, there appears to be processes that conflate everything. To put it very plainly, I'll admit. What's your response to people who feel that the ANC-led government is not the government to in fact lead the process, given how much time has lapsed and given what we know now about our democratic dispensation?
No, I think the ANC has been leading this process. It has been part and parcel of the partnership in society to lead the process. I think that what has been happening, particularly at the level of government, people have been coming up with all sorts of criticism. After Madiba, on this currency of reconciliation, nation building, so much was said about how that project has been abandoned and so on. But I think that it's not, and it will continue to be. You'll always find instances where there are sometimes genuine criticism about the governing party itself, about how government goes about leading society. But I can say that with such portfolios like sport in this country, like arts and culture, we have been able to rally South Africans around the issue of reconciliation. But as I said earlier on to you, that the road to social progress is always under construction.
Minister, I meant to let you go, but very quickly, whilst I have you on the line, you've brought up the idea of sports. Sad news we heard earlier this week of Machaka Madisha, part of Mamelodi Sundowns, who sadly passed on in a car accident. I may have missed the communication from your ministry, but can you give us an idea of the communication you've had with the family, where you're at insofar as giving them some kind of support if that's needed, those kind of information?
No, we did express our heartfelt condolences to the family. We did interact with his team, and we were advised that for now, if we can give the family the space, that there's a process which is going on of actually doing all other things like DNA and all those things. So we are very much close to the situation, as would always be in all other instances. But indeed, for Sundowns and sporting fraternity, this has been a difficult period.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming onto the AM report, giving us an idea of what you know and how you read the situation as it stands. That's Arts and Culture Minister, Arts, Culture and Sports Minister, to be more precise, Nathi Mthethwa, joining us there via our video line.